Recording.
You've got an agenda?
No, I don't think it works with agenda. Does it normally? No. I've always had better success without one.
Oh,
yeah.
You're not going to fold your arms though, are you?
Oh, I got told off from the last two podcasts I've done. First one was for saying Roger, so I had to stop that straight away.
Yeah, you said Roger 4 times already.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's hard, really hard. That's my thing.
Do you know what, other people have started saying correct, and it's like, yes, I know I'm correct because I said it.
Yeah.
You just go, yes.
Yeah, Roger's better though, isn't it?
Not really.
Softer, not so. Why not the cross arms?
I found a body language. So it's a very I'm protecting myself and I'm thinking that time thing.
Yeah, but they're not.
It's open body language,
Relax.
Open aspect, shoulders back, all that sort of thing.
Okay.
That's how you exude confidence.
Okay. Do you do a lot of that?
Straight away? No, not at all. I just naturally do it.
How long's Cobalt been going for?
23 years.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, you're quite old.
I am, 49, aren't I?
Honestly. Still play rugby?
I do.
And did you go IT first or comms first when you started?
IT first. IT in 2001. It was just something that I was doing for people, met people at various things, gyms, friends, and thought, right, let's do this for myself. Started the first year on my billy.
On what?
From by myself.
Oh, on your billy, yeah.
Good Devonian expression. Started by myself, in 01, and always planned to grow. And then added the comms on in 2008. Took on Jim, and he was working for a local comms company. Said, right, Jim, how do you fancy doing this for yourself and for me?
Yeah.
So we started Cobalt Comms in 08.
Separate entity?
Completely separate entity, separate limited company, separate entity.
Still to this day?
Yes. Yeah, computers are separate, so.
Okay. And what was it like back then in terms of options of suppliers? Was it you come to the market, there's one big brand, that's who you choose, and they give you one sales?
When we started the comms business?
Yeah.
Oh, it was, we kind of got railroaded into who we couldn't buy from because they had their chosen companies down here that they were working with. So we're talking traditional PBX was still the main thing.
Is that what you started on?
We did, but we were always quite, we chose and we went with Astra. And
Direct?
So with Astra Direct, because they were direct before they got bought by Mitel.
Yeah.
And we naturally became Mitel dealers later on. But yeah, we bought Astra because it was a technical system. It was really cool.
Yeah. Were you early adopters of voice over IP?
Yeah, we bought our first SIP trunk in 2010.
Yeah.
And it took a year to move our number from, they were called Telewest originally here. So you remember the Telewest days?
Yeah.
And they were called something else before that as well. Which I remember, but yes, it was from Telewest and then Virgin. It took a year to actually port our number from Telewest onto our original VoiceFlex SIP trunk. Yeah.
When did you start selling connectivity? What was your first product? So was voice your first product, like most, fixed line, PBX, or was you doing it hand in hand from the start?
We'd already had a fair amount. I set up a really early account with Eclipse because they were a local-based business when it was still owned by Mark in Exeter, who he used to work for Helmet Turbines out in Soughton. Yeah. And he said, I'm going to set up this ISP thing with a load of modems and I'm going to set up his business. We're like, you're nuts. You're giving up a really good job. And I think he sold that how many years later and showed us like at least 8 million reasons why he was right and we were wrong. Yeah. But yes, it was dial-up very originally. And then you could do them where it was an 0845 number or something, or 0345, I can't remember what they were back then. You could earn like 0.0001p a minute on dial-up. Yeah. So I still remember, SU6670 was my original Eclipse. BKXDOKBP was the password. Well, you had to type it in almost every single time you connected up with your squealy modems, way before you'd remember because you're far too young. That's honestly. And then when we went and set that account up years later, they looked it up and they're like, you were right. I'm like, I told you. And that's what it was. So dial up. And then I guess it was the first ADSLs that we were doing. Yeah. In fact, one of them was not far from where we are here in Exeter in Longbrook Street. Yeah. I remember it really well. And just going through modems. And it was kind of weird because it was a fixed price that you had to pay a month. And it was like, oh, do you think this is going to be good? I'm like, look, I'm sure it's going to be good. I don't know why yet. Yeah. But it's got to be better than dial-up. We did all sorts with. At home, I had a home highway, if you ever remember what one of those were. No, so they were ISDN ports, and you could channel bond them, so you could get 128. So single ISDN 64 kilobits, you could get 128 channels.
Say meg, so not meg.
No. No, not meg.
meg. Right, yeah.
Kilobit.
Yeah. That's quite ahead of your time. Okay, yeah, right.
So yeah, nowhere near 128 meg. And with that, it was really cool thing to do. And it was, called Home Highway. They never really kicked off, but it gave you that because everyone else was doing 56.6. So it's 56K.
Kilobits.
This is how old at kilobits. Yeah, this is how old I am. So 9.6 it started off, then 14.4, 28.8. Yeah.
When would you call a connectivity boom from you? When the world of ADSL came into play, or more?
When ADSL became in other exchanges, so, and then you had to really know your town. You had to know where you were and what things were, because where we are, like in Exeter, Marsh Barton was on a different exchange that wasn't enabled.
Yeah.
So if you were one side of a culvert that runs across it, you could get like a meg or 500K or up to 4. Yeah. I mean, at one time it was 8 meg. I mean, that was booming. But then it was learning all different modems that would crash or not crash, and it was unreliable. And connectivity was, and still remains to this day, not the easiest thing in the world, because you still need to know who's where and who's done what. Mm-hmm. And we sell it. We don't make massive margin because it's a game of numbers and you don't need to be a local supplier for it.
No.
But it's an enabler for us to sell our other services.
Correct.
And the key thing is to get the best connectivity at the best value you can get in for it. So I had people on Marsh Barton on a split cab that came from Exeter Queen Street Exchange that we could then get them ADSL, and that meant that we could then sell them VoIP, or they could have a small business server, or they could do all the other things they wanted to do.
Agree. Do you think, so it's a really good point, talking about margins always being slim within connectivity, and it's very much that way when we look at our entry-level products, CG or FTTC, but I'd say when I first got into comms, like 10 years ago, we were going through what I would call an Ethernet boom.
Yep.
And it was very attractive to be able to get 150 quid a month off 100 meg connectivity play. Was you in the Ethernet space? Did you see what I call the Ethernet boom?
Yeah,
and the money was right. And do you think that's reducing now? How many questions?
Yeah, I mean, very much so. With the Ethernet boom, we probably 10 years ago had 3 lease lines because as a smaller business, it was a big risk to take on a 3-year commitment, not knowing they wanted to do that and that monthly charge. And there was reasonable margin. Like you say, you're probably making 150 quid margin a month for doing virtually nothing for a connection that didn't go wrong.
Correct.
That just worked and did everything else. So the customers were spending £1,200 ish a month. So percentage wise, it's just 10% ish of what you are. And I guess you probably look at that now, that a lease line now, 100 meg line, under 300 quid to nearly every sort of place, you might make 10% now, so you're making 30 quid. So the percentage margin, but of course it's much more widely available, so you've got lots and lots and lots more of them.
Correct.
But support-wise, they cause you way less grief.
Because they never go down, they've got the SLA.
I wouldn't say they never go down, but yeah. And then you learn things along the line, don't you? So along the line, we're like, let's see if we can, look, you can get wires only, because we used to do wires only ADSL. Let's do a wires only lease line.
Yeah.
And never again.
No.
Because
that's when they just bring the fibre in and you've got to terminate it into your equipment.
And do you know what? Not a problem terminating into the equipment, not a problem setting it all up. You need like all sorts of complicated VLANs and like 2 gateways or terminations, things like that. The main thing was that if your broadband provider can't see their piece of kit on the end of their line, they don't know whether the line's faulty or whether it's the kit faulty.
So the monitoring and SLA goes right out the window.
Completely forget about it. So we did 3.
What's your bread and butter product of the business now? No, what was your bread and butter product, say, 10 years ago, so we touched on Ethernet there, and then what is your bread and butter product now? What earns you the most money?
What earns us the most money as a whole business? It'll be our unified comms, so all our mixture of voice over IP type products. Yeah. Be that with the straight hosted environments that we buy, or be that with 3CX partners, which we host in Amazon Web Services.
Loads of techies who are techie first are 3CX partners, and I don't know 3CX because I come from a traditional comms background, so I know your main VoIP suppliers. Do you have to be techie to use 3CX?
Yes, you do.
Okay, fine. And what's the benefits of using 3CX? Cost or
concurrent licensing? So a 16 simultaneous call bundle is very cheap software-wise, and you could run a school that's got 200 extensions off of that.
Roger, and they're never going to go past that
because they don't go down that route. And it's amazing, actually. We run reports because it's our job to keep our systems as lean as we possibly can. So we run a report, and we've had 400 extensions that have like the most they've ever had are 16 simultaneous calls.
So you can
and you just smash it out. Otherwise, imagine 400 lots of subscriptions.
Yeah, for a school or for a charity or for
with our other product, exactly that. With our other product that we're doing now with Vox One, we've got exactly the same, where we've got classroom licenses or unattended room licenses as such that
price comes down.
Can make It can make internal calls, do all of that side of things.
And do you think the VoIP element or the voice element is what has supported your business growth over the years as well?
Being early adopters or innovators, because we won an innovation award with the comms dealer 2 years ago for the products that we do.
An actual dealer actually winning one of those awards. That's quite rare, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. No, it was really good. And that was that was pretty much a lockdown thing where we used 3CX to use web RTC. With the
people to come actually.
Exactly. So it's in the Google and Firefox browser to allow people to use voice. So they could click on a link on a vet's web page. It would initiate a call to a call center. They could then put that call through to a vet. That vet could then talk to the person. They could click another button and it would then initiate video with a webcam or with a smartphone and they could do triage on a pet and say, look, yes, you do need to come into the practice and actually see this animal, or you can do this, this, and this. So we save pets' lives.
Excellent. That sounds very present and up to date. When PBX was first the major push and everyone was doing lovely leases and they were earning lots of money, there was a time when VoIP was rolling in and a lot of companies couldn't adapt to the new technologies of voice over IP, and a lot of them fell in the wind or they exited because they couldn't keep up. You managed to adapt to the VoIP side of it, and it sounds now, we're just talking very technical then and very feature-rich stuff.
Yeah.
I will call you a traditional reseller because you've come from that time.
Yes.
Do you think it's hard to keep up with some of the more modern, younger resellers coming in? And do you think it's important to keep on top of your product knowledge? So you're very good in going to events and speaking to suppliers and understanding what's new. How key do you think it is to keep up to date with relevant suppliers and products and features in order to keep up with everyone else?
Massively important. I mean, I spend a huge amount of my time on that because I'm a geek and I love that stuff.
Yeah.
I can tell you your NTP, your internal BT points up on the wall there just outside as I walked in. There's a socket in it that's got an ADSL filter on it, the old school, and then your other routers sat in the window, which I presume is 4G from the
yes, it is. I
didn't even know that, but I could just see it was in the window, stuff like that. So that's just connectivity geeking out that I could see that. And just looking at, for instance, I live in Exmouth, not all that far from here, and I know exactly where my cab is in Exmouth and what it was. We had G-Fast put in.
Yeah, that talk.
No. G-Fast was something that was added onto the standard copper BT cabinet to give you up to. I was going to say 150, so I think it was maybe 120, but it's to give you fast over your copper last mile. But
I thought copper was restricted to how much bandwidth it's showing my
only is on, so it's all down to distance.
Yeah.
So copper obviously has a fair amount of resistance in it. Yeah. So over those distances, the more resistance, the more noise. Yeah. DSL being an analog product, very affected by noise. So G-Fast did it, but it only really worked if you were like 60 meters away, and I was like 180 or something, or they don't always run the right route. So G-Fast was no good. Yeah. I already had fibre to the cabinet there. I didn't originally. I had ADSL. Yep. And now in my road, the first people to do it were Jurassic, who are now Cuckoo. Yep. And then BT or Openreach have now put fibre to Prem in. So we have a pole at the end of the drive that now has, and Virgin have just cabled and put cabs on the end of the road.
No, right. So what, on your pole you've got two?
I've got 3 fibre connection points.
And how many? It's interesting, isn't it? And how many homes on your road? So how much opportunity is there for Openreach?
On my road there now, crikey, a lot of them have been bought and split or knocked down and turned into flats. So there's probably about 80, maybe 100 homes. But actually, if you go original numbers, it's something like 42.
I don't think so. That's interesting, right? And Openreach have to build because they've got to have this national play. But for me, it doesn't make too much sense, because are they ever going to be able to compete with the likes of a Jurassic? Because Jurassic will offer full fibre, and like lots of the altnets out there, they're desperate for customer acquisition, so they're going to be going out offering their gig product for a silly price, and then Openreach are there. Have they got a chance, or is it because they've got the household brands? Maybe they do.
They've got everything there, haven't they? So with Jurassic now Cuckoo, because they've rebranded, they've got 30-day contracts, things like that, which is really attractive, and it's good. That's how the way I operate my business. Wherever I can do a 30-day contract, I will do a 30-day contract.
Do you ever get worried that devalues your business if it ever comes to
not in the slightest, because it makes customers more sticky. We sell on it. Now look, if I was interested in selling, I'd probably want to then extend that into it so that there's somebody buying it, but it means that we keep on our toes, we keep agile with everything, and they stay. We don't lose customers. We've got customers that have been with us from the very origins of time, and the ones we don't are just because there might be a slight difference in culture. Or
if a competitor comes in and they have a very double glazing sales culture, and they've sat in front of your customer and gone through a 12-stage sales pitch, do you lose a lot of customers to those aggressive sales type resellers? And do you have a concern about those if you're on 30 days?
No, not at all. We do. You will lose the odd one because they're naive and they don't manage to work out that if they multiply the monthly figure by 72 or even longer, and they say, oh well, it's going to get this cheap for year one. My thing is, if ever anyone offers you like a free iPad or something like that, just say no, because it's not free. You're paying for it somewhere. But we're not really worried about that. Plus, the way that we work our model where we do things is that our monthly ongoings are actually really good value and very difficult for our customers to displace or other people to displace those customers. Okay. We struggle enough when we try and upgrade them. We've already got them because they're going, I don't know how I can do this. So say all of a sudden they want some Teams integration and we need to go to a slightly different product with direct routing or with the Teams app and all that stuff. But
sticking to the sales side, well, we're going to go into the world of fibre and everything else, but your sales approach is very different. You're very much sticking to your networking group, make friends, and then the business comes after. And that's boded well for you. And you have a local presence within Exeter. Are you...
The Southwest, come on, mate.
The Southwest. Sorry, not just Exeter.
Not just Exeter.
You're a big geezer, big firm. You do lots. Are you looking to change that? Is that method scalable because it sits with you as a personal brand? So I think there's a limit to it. And you've hired 2 new salespeople, so are you now in a facility where you're trying to scale and then grow the business by other methods?
I like that. So you've already told me you're biased by you saying that's down to me. You didn't even mean to do that, but you're like, I don't think that's scalable. You just told me that.
Well,
look, relationships, people buy from people, full stop.
Yeah.
And having a profile out there with the networking, with everything else, with doing podcasts, because I've got my rugby podcast as well, 2 Locks and a Cox with Sarah Cox, which is getting popular. With the networking with Cobalt, it's all part of an overall brand and culture, and people buy into that, and the salespeople love it. They go to places, and we are well known down here, and throughout the Southwest, because I'd probably say we're the largest independently owned comms company this side of Bristol.
Yep, I'll give you that.
Because everyone else has been bought by a national. So that local reach still gives you a fair amount, which is great.
You've smashed what you've done, by any means. Like, you've taken that local, I'm a famous chap, to the absolute ends.
I'm not a famous chap. I'm
absolutely just... I went to your event.
That was a closed book, isn't it? That's my event.
Of like 180 people.
There were 180 odd there, but that's our event, and we do that. But we're running those out in Plymouth, and we're running that in Bristol as well. So if you want to do a good networking event, make your own. Which is what we did.
Makes sense.
We didn't like the ones we were going to, so we made our own. So that side of things, and then our national customers come from like franchises. So we've got hold of a franchise and say, look, you're a franchisor. If you build a comms package into part of your franchise, you then secure that phone number, which could be a real key part of it, and the communication. So not only can you not make a good margin, but you can provide a solution to someone. Rather than those 50 franchisees all having different ways of doing it, you can have some control and you can hold the phone number. If you hold the phone number, it's the key to that franchise.
How do you mean? What franchise? Like, as in, You don't say who your customers are.
Oh, no, so we've got an Eddie Stobart franchise as part of it.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You'll find it on my website because we do news, we do testimonials, and we do white papers on solutions we've done for our customers. So they work with us to go, look, do you mind us? Can we do this for it? So we did it for Luscombe Drinks, who are a well-known drink company down in Buckfast-Lee. And we said, look, we do a mutual sort of, white paper on why you chose us, what we've done for you, how we simplified things. They had something really complex. So I was like, let's just chuck that out. Let's just keep it simple, stupid.
Is that... I've got two questions. So one, keep it simple, stupid. Yes. Comms, KISS. Do you think... So comms can be very much feature bashed and a complex sales solution when you're going into an end user and you're like, look at the call recording and all these 95 buttons. Sometimes the end user doesn't really care about that. And do you think what's the word? Simplification.
We solution sell, but we find out people's pain. So people have got certain pain with call diversion to engineers out of hours or something like that. We'll work with them on that. And they don't care about call recording or PCI compliance or MiFID II compliance or all of those things. I mean, we can talk TLAs all day if you want.
TLAs,
TLAs? What TLAs?
No idea.
3-letter acronyms.
Oh, lovely.
And what's the irony of that? TLA is the 3-letter acronym. So you can talk in that stuff all the time, but actually it's not there. So we've always solutions sold. I think there was a real trend, and I said this on something else, where you look at people who felt the real need to put voice and data in their company name.
Yeah, loads of it.
You search a database and a reseller, it's voice and data. 62 different companies come up because they might have been called Bob or Bob's Telecoms or something, and they go, I can't just be a comms company. I need to be like data as well. Bob's voice and data. Well done, Bob. Great.
The ironic thing is that data means absolutely all to me as a consumer. What is data? Like, do you want to sell me a spreadsheet?
Can you say that on your Fibrenews podcast?
I don't know actually, but we can beep. You can. Then we've got a guy. We've got a guy. He's very
Because I normally have like Tourette's, but I obviously my podcast is sponsored by Extra Chief, so I have to be very good on that.
We beat.
We beat. I've learned. Oh, you beat, right?
I think that's good, right? Because you've got to keep a bit of naturalism.
No, it is. You've got to keep some humour in it somewhere, because I'm a hoot, apparently.
Yeah, you're all right.
So that's what I got described by Annie Vernon, the silver Olympic medal rower. Said Chris, who's a good friend. So she went, got to tell you, Ian intensely annoyed me to begin with, but now he's the star of a show.
Oh, he's a review on your podcast
with his dad jokes and quips that he makes. He's a hoot.
How long have you been doing that?
Coming up a year now.
Do you think a podcast can be utilised in a B2B business world?
Yeah, very much so. And people will sit through it and listen to it. You can educate yourself. And I think I listen to podcasts in the car. So I used to always listen to audiobooks. Now I vary it. So I listen to a bit of an audiobook, then I listen to a podcast I've got interested in.
I think there is a need for, obviously I'm doing one, but there is a need for, there's a lot of people that want to self-learn and better themselves. And the ideal time to do it is if you're a travelling businessman or a salesperson and you get in the car. That's why I originally created this back in 2022, is I wanted to know what was going on in industry or get any tips about what's happening. I'm in the car, time's wasted. Why not chuck on a podcast? I'm going a bit off key now, but you said earlier, people buy from people. Do you think, and you do it very well, without meaning to, I think to some degree, unless you sit in front of the mirror in the morning and try and train yourself to be a people seller, do you think it's hard to train that to salespeople that come into the business? Like, how do you get that culture in their head? Like, it's hard.
It's instilling that confidence in them that they are there for a reason. So I've got my 3 rules of life and business choices, which are you make your last loss your first loss. So if you know something's going to cost you financially or emotionally, just get it done. Just deal with it. Don't drag it down the line. The most simple thing is you put your registration wrong when you park somewhere and you get a fine for 60 quid. And you say, well, I've got a ticket. I did everything. Yes, you do, but your registration was wrong. Rather than trying to fight that, ending up a year down the line with loads of letters and still having to pay the 60 quid or 80 quid or 120 quid, just pay the 40 quid to pay it quickly. You made a mistake. Get over it. Get on with the things that you're wanting to do. Rule 2 is accept the things you can't change.
Yep.
You can't change this system. You just have to work with it.
Yep.
So like with say connectivity, where we've tried everything. We put an old satellite in. If you remember the ones the high orbit satellites, great download speeds.
And they used to do it as well.
Horrendous out of Bristol they were. Yeah. And great. You start streaming something, it would come down, but you wait ages for that first bit of data, and then we put 4G in and do this. You're like, it just can't change this. There's just nothing that we can do to change this. So
awesome, right?
Just accept it. And rule 3, it's the most important one.
Never cut someone off.
Have a high enough opinion of yourself, so it doesn't matter what other people think.
Yeah.
Now that's not in an arrogant way. Yeah. That is, I've never suffered from this thing they say, imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Because I know if I'm somewhere, someone's put me there for a reason. I might not know why I'm there. Someone said, right, can you do this for us? Or can you talk? Can you do that? Can you go and do this appointment? They put me there for a reason. And I know more than the customer that I'm talking to does. And with those skills of asking questions and then listening.
Yeah.
2 ears, 1 mouth, that routine. It's really easy. They'll give you the answer.
Yeah.
And if you don't get the answer the first time to the question you asked, ask the same question in a slightly different way, and you'll eventually get there. But teaching salespeople that is difficult, but they learn because I like that worked, or they might use something. And there's all these, most of the stuff's reinvented business jargon. I did a degree in business information systems, European economics and European law from Leicester, because it was everywhere, because I'm not bright enough to do one subject, so I thought I'd do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And that remains to this exact day.
Yeah.
Master of nothing.
And do you think you need to give, so if you're in a position as a business where you're giant and you've got loads of debt and you've loads of backing, you can afford to bring salespeople on and give them time to find their curve and learn. It's a bit different for you guys, right? Because you're not that, you're a big company, but you're not a mega company. So it counts for when a salesperson comes on. This is a bit of a ruthless question, really, but how long would you give a salesperson to find their own, and what do you track? Okay, fine. Yeah.
6 months. They all have a spreadsheet that we work out that has the number of calls they've got to make, the number of existing customers that they can talk to because they're given a patch, they're given an area, the number of networking events that they have to go to, the number of walk through the doors, as we said, around. And if they hit all of those stats, funnily enough, they get appointments. And if they get enough of those appointments, they get enough sales.
Yeah.
So if they're hitting all of those metrics, it will happen.
Yeah.
There's no and or but, because it knows, because we've done this for long enough. Yeah. If they're not hitting those, they go, I'm just unlucky. Well, you're not making enough calls.
Yeah.
What are you doing? I research a customer, then I call them. Just ring them. Yeah. Just pick up the phone and get through to them.
Yeah.
But we have success in building a relationship.
Yeah.
So we're not just instantly going for that kill. We'll build a relationship, find out when their renewals are, do all those things, use a good CRM. It's not, none of this is rocket science, but it needs to be applied, and Jim's brilliant at it.
Yeah, yeah. It's all about showing up.
Yes.
What they say. Okay. Going back just a little bit. So we talked about satellite there for a little bit, and there's 2 points I want to touch on here. So 4G is now making our world a hell of a lot easier. And there was a post on LinkedIn actually a couple of months ago where someone was like, Openreach this, Openreach that. Soch Khan is just trying to get this Sojia connection involved. But I think now, as a reseller, you've got so many tools. Like, you always got to be one step ahead of Openreach. You can never, whoever you complain to, you can never get that Sojia or FTTC connection in any quicker. Now we have 4G and in some places 5G with affordable quick setups. I think for a reseller, it gives us all the tools we wish we ever had. So Sojia is taking 4 weeks to get in. No drama. You can put a little 4G solution in now, which keeps the customer happy, gets them online. You give them some extensions. You're not going to be able to download Netflix 2.0 in 3 seconds, but it is going to get your business online. And from a backup scenario as well, we always had to rely on, okay, if you're going to put an Ethernet connection in, we've got to put a separate Sojia in 5 times, just in case you fall over.
Which is of no use whatsoever. Which is probably like just purely there for margin.
Why is that?
Well, because the SLAs are so good on lease lines with things, weren't they? That they rarely fell over. And if they did, you then backed up to an ADSL connection, or if you were really lucky, a fibre to the cabinet. So your 100 meg lease line's just gone to 4 meg with all those people on it. It's like this is no good. I can barely pull my email in. So actually, the way that it goes, I've got a Starlink. I've had one for 2 years,
Perfect.
and I was like, I need one of these when they first came out. Will it work here? Yes. And it's rented out at the moment. It's been out all over the place. But a lot of the times when someone has a connectivity outage, but then I make sure when I go away on my motorhome, I know that there's no connectivity. I get the Starlink back and I take it with me. So I've been at like Rewind Festival on the banks of the river at Henley there with my Starlink going moving like that with full internet. There's sort of 200,000 or I don't know what, a huge number of people there all trying to get on a few cell towers, and you can't do anything. We're there. We've got 120 meg, streaming things and doing it all, and it is just brilliant.
I've got so many questions about this. So Starlink for me, there's a few things. One, let's talk about how it operates in a business. Have you used it for businesses? You said you're renting it out there.
Yes.
And then two, I'm only saying these 2 points now so I don't forget. And then two is billions of pounds are being invested to all of these fibre companies to lay fibre, and I get that. But say Elon and his crazy head can roll this out effectively to the millions. Is it ever going to take over fibre for the consumer? We'll start there so I can remember that in a minute. Or why wouldn't it?
Well, why wouldn't it? I guess it's. You've seen the Starlink satellites. How many they're launching, and what they're doing. So the way it works is low orbit satellite. So the ping, which is your key to your connectivity. So it's the time to live. This part that your first bit of data comes back in.
Yeah.
Remember the old laser printers or the colour things? It's the first page used to take forever to come out, and then it would churn.
Yeah.
The same with this. So the satellites we sold originally are high orbit, so they sit up there and they're static. So as the Earth spins and everything else spins, the satellite moves with us, like the Sky satellites and all of those. Whereas the Starlink is an active satellite that's moving at a different speed in much, much lower orbit. So you're having this string of satellites, and the dish is motorized and moves to track the satellites and log onto that. So that's the reason why you're getting high speeds and you're getting a much quicker ping. And why it has no barrier to where you can put it, because you can put it to wherever you want to, because you don't have the geography isn't an issue.
Could they ever replace a consumer fibre prop?
They can do, but you would have said that about 4G not that long ago, and people have been banging on about that as 5G.
But 4G gets flooded, right? Like even now, I'm in Exeter and I'm trying to watch a funny, sexy Facebook video, and then it's buffering. Absolute mood killer.
Yes.
But would that be a concern with satellite? Or is there a different way where
it's a concern with everything, isn't it? I think like all these things, it's a mix. You want a bit of everything, so you need to have them. So like I said, I've got a 4G router in the motorhome as well, so I use that most of the time. And in my phone, I'm on Vodafone. In my iPad, I have a 3 SIM, and I think I've got O2 in the one on the van. So I've got the networks covered for the different things to try and get the different frequencies things. But it's a mix of all sorts. If you said to me, would you like a satellite or would you like a fibre connection you're building? There is an absolute no-brainer. It's a fibre into your building every single time.
As a business, but I think as a consumer,
still as a consumer,
you think
just technically, it's just always going to be better. It's like,
but 130 megs, 130 meg, no.
No, it's not though. If I want to plug in, I want to plug in because your speeds are just headlines. It's this latency, it's this ping, this thing like that, and it's the experience and the reliability of it. I know they're not as affected by weather as badly, but like real bad weather, it will get affected.
Cool.
Real heavy rain or snow on them and things, but they're heated and they do all sorts of clever stuff like that. So that snow doesn't stick to them. But it's still, atmospheric is going to affect it, and they're not going to affect a fibre in the ground the same way.
Have you put a satellite in for a business dedicated who couldn't get anything?
Yeah, we've done loads of those as well.
Yeah.
Because we're in
Devon.
Devon.
Do you install them?
Yes. Yeah, we're in Devon, so we have to. We have to. You have to know everything. There's no 4G. I mean, 5G, great. In Exmouth, we've got it there on Vodafone. They said it's awful.
Yeah.
I'd rather be on 4G because for some reason it just doesn't work very well for us. There's lots of hills and all sorts of dead spots and things, and there's that limitation, isn't there, of connectivity?
Yeah. Can you? Is there a way to not bundle, but spread out the back? So say I'm a campsite and I can have 100 guests on a weekend.
Yes.
But then in the winter I'll only have 5. So. Like, if I have 100 guests, Elon satellite, what's the name?
Starlink.
Edit. So Starlink, that's not going to be able to do 100 people, is it? Or is there? It is. No problem. Is there a separate business to consumer model?
Yes, there is, but it depends on IP addresses. So a lot of this stuff was back in the day. I must sound really old. I am, but we had 3G, 4G, which was great. We give people reasonable data speeds, but all of their tech and everything they needed was all on premise. So they were accessing their server. So they needed VPNs, they needed fixed IP addresses, they needed that. Now it's nearly all cloud-based and encrypted in a slightly different way, so you don't need it. So that fixed IP that you used to pay extra for or do all that stuff for has largely gone. So we used to fill out RIPE forms all the time and justify why you need these IPs. Yeah. We hardly ever do them now because you just don't need them. And we were going to run out of IPv4 addresses years ago. God, this is so boring. Can't we talk about something interesting?
Do you have IP addresses? No, this is good. This is technical.
It's really dull. And it's like the fact you're making me do this like that. And almost sound intelligent, which I don't want to.
A lot of our listeners are technical, so I need to have technical people on, otherwise they get bored.
But we were going to run out of IPv4 addresses, public ones, years ago, and have to move to IPv6. But we haven't because lots of people have just been giving back blocks and blocks of IPs because they don't need them. They used to have to run them for Exchange and for the VPN and for the application server and for all the different termination points you needed. Whereas now either the gateways are better, you go to the gateway and then inside the network, or actually it's cloud-based and it's done that way. So.
How do you charge for your satellite? Because obviously Starlink is online at a fee. I've got to stop moving away from the mic. I keep talking here.
You do.
What a donut. Starlink is a fixed fee online, and they can see that. Do you have like a management fee to manage it for them?
No, it's an enabling product. So we'll charge to put it in. We'll do that, and we'll work around it. So it's an enabling product to enable us to sell our other things. So would I rather sell our own product? Yeah, of course I would. It's the same with Virgin. That we had a reseller account with them that was doing all of that, and it just became really, really difficult and things. So we've lost the margin on that. So the altnets are great where they work with us. Yeah. So we were resellers of Jurassic. Yeah. That's now moving to whatever the Cuckoo's is which one?
So Cuckoo's their direct
Cuckoo's
brand.
The direct.
All Points is their wholesale. If you can sell on those networks, frustrating if they're listening. Yes. But eventually you will be able to.
Yeah, exactly that. But we're in the running for that, and we've got lots of business customers already on it on Jurassic that we're waiting to move over. Yeah.
And was that like a similar dealer model where you couldn't build?
That's a traditional dealer model that we've got, but it was the classic. I still remember going with Henry, who was at Eclipse at the time, and he said, "Look, I've got this. I want you to look at it," because he knew that we knew a little bit about reseller and had these things, and it was at Eclipse, and they had the best visual product. Yeah. So you'd log into it and you'd look, and it would show you all your broadband connections, show you exactly which exchange they were with, where they're up, whether they're down. It would do all sorts of monitoring, and you sort of go to click on it and didn't do anything. I was like, "You've just given me a Ferrari with a mini engine in it. It looks gorgeous. Do this," and they developed it, and that became a real key product for us. Sentinel, it was called. So Sentinel is epic, and any of the other providers, they've sort of got it, and I guess it's not as important in the fibre to the cabinet as it was in the ADSL days. Yeah. But he ran through, and we did bonded broadband back then, and I used to work on bonded broadband with them where we did it. It was so complicated at certain speeds. You'd end up with 8 boxes because you'd have balancers and then the old Netgear routers that they used at that time. Yeah. I go, right, I don't believe in percentages on things. They've got this. You can buy this and sell it for what you wanted to. So we went through all these products. I said, cool, what about the bonded? Yeah, he said it goes out at one line, or so two bonded lines are 78 quid or something like this. Oh, that's good. And then what's our price to that? He said, you get 10% off that. I was like, you just told me. You just said, oh, no, I've done it to you again, haven't I? I was like, yes, you have, yeah.
It's funny you say that. Like, a portal was so amazing, and that's what
key, absolute key.
It's funny, isn't it?
Are so important.
So anyone who's a lot of altnets want to come into the wholesale space, and there's lots of conversations about how they're going to do that, whether it's through an aggregator and lots of these different options. And I've had conversations with some networks about breaking out into this space. And I always try and get into their head. If you want to break into the traditional reseller space, where these 600 active resellers doing lots of business, essentially like having 600 self-employed salespeople, if you want to break into these guys, the self-management and the portal is numero uno. Because if they can't get on and see their customer base...
What's that for our English listeners?
What part?
Numero uno, is that?
Numero uno.
What's that for our English?
Number one.
Number one, good. Right.
Number one. It's Spanish.
It's key.
Yeah, sí. And it is key, absolutely right. And I think that's...
Speak any other Spanish?
Tres cervezas, por favor.
3 beers, please. Very good.
We should continue in Spanish.
On peut parler en français si tu veux, c'est pas un problème.
Ah ouais.
That's French, you know that.
Oh,
it's good.
Oui.
Yeah, look, portals are absolutely key because a classic is you have to deal with anybody you're dealing with how they want to be conversed with. As somebody who might be slightly on the spectrum with ADHD and all those sorts of things, I like brain never stops and have two tunes playing in my head at different speeds at all times. I get communicated with in so many different ways by different stuff. And I'll say to anybody, if I text you, please text me back.
Yep.
Don't ring me. So if I want to ring you or ring you, do this. That's how I want to deal with my team. And do this. I just want a quick reply. Yeah. It's like with anything, there's none of the niceties. Oh, hi, and how are you? Don't really care. I've got to get stuff done today. I've got a really limited amount of time. Yeah. And let's just keep going, you know. Yeah. If you're not running fast enough, you'll never graze your knees. Yeah. So if you graze your knees occasionally, that happens. It's fine. And the portals are key to that. I want to be able to just jump onto a portal, help myself to things, get the knowledge I want to do, not have to go through to a call centre. Mm-hmm. So the amount of time, resource, increase in customer service you can do is huge. And the point with the communication is really funny because I saw it on LinkedIn. Somebody commented, said, I have to deal with IT managers and it's really difficult to communicate with them because they don't want to either answer the phone or things like this. I'm like, just send them like a Post-it note stuck to a can of Monster Energy. Other energy drinks are available, and you might get an answer. But you have to learn how to communicate with your relevant customer. Now we're consuming stuff in TikTok.
Yeah.
With stuff, just instant, real short snaps of information with that. Yeah. And that can be used for business. People always just kid stuff. It's like, not at all. And the portal is for any of our suppliers. We're talking about it just before we started recording that I didn't choose a particular product because the back end product they had looked awful. Everything else was amazing, all looked really nice, but they hadn't developed that one part, and you just can't work with that.
What else do you think is key that you need from a supplier in order to blossom a relationship?
Accountability, authenticity.
Oh, you answered that. Awesome. Which is a touch because I thought you might have hesitated. Go on. What do you mean?
It's what?
You answered that really well. I thought that's going to be a hard question, but go on.
It's not. It's a really easy question, isn't it? So accountability of their actions and their products. So we all get things wrong.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to have problems. We work in the technical industry. It's how you then actually deal with that. So it's how quickly you do it. I used to, the old days of networking 20 odd years ago were sort of B&I sat, 6 o'clock start and breakfast really early, 6:30 sit down. And I used to go to Exeter and Plymouth, all the local sort of ones that are around, not just my local network. I said to one of the things, right, you can't use me now or do all those things. Take my business card and here's a bit of blue tack and stick it to the back of your monitor. So when you're really angry with it and you whack it like that, my business card falls out and ring me. And they like that idea. It was, you know, that. So it's that accountability or being there to fix your issues when things have gone wrong that have been your mistake or not your mistake, still own them, own the problem.
And I assume you take this ethos into your own customer.
Or the whole time with everything like that, and sometimes a little bit too much because it's like I still care about my customers. I read something and I get like, oh God, I don't like that that's happened to them. Yeah. And then the authenticity is just be yourself, be your brand, be what you are. One of my keynotes I talk about the Jordans. It's like that just because there seemed to be a whole how names are trendy at a certain time, and the Jordans all sort of seem to hit LinkedIn and things at the same time, and they all became entrepreneurs and investors and all of this stuff. I'm like, Jordan, you're working from your mum's back bedroom, and that's absolutely fine. I've got no problem with that whatsoever. Don't fake it till you make it. You can talk bigger. I always used to talk when in my first year as just me. In 2001, I used to talk about Cobalt as a brand and as a business because that was the brand and the business that I knew was going to grow. I never lied to everyone and going, I've got all of this and all of that. And so it's authenticity of actually that. And people want to work with that. They'll evolve.
Yeah. I also think as well, for some alternative networks or new connectivity players who are wanting to break out into the wholesale space, one, don't actually see how large the opportunity is with the resellers. Every reseller has X amount of customer bases, and every single one of those is acquiring new customers, and each one of those is feeding you to your wholesale play. Where was I going with this? So they don't see the opportunity, And there was another key part. And they don't understand how easy they need to enable that reseller to sell. And one part of it is the portal, and another part of it, don't come down a complicated price model. Don't try and give us tiers in the way we're going to be able to buy that product. No. Don't try and do a dealer model because it just does not work. People, they're their customers that they've nurtured for many, many years. You build that reseller and then they want to bill on. So coming out of a dealer model, like we touched on with one supplier then, just in my eyes does not work. So I think there's huge opportunity for new connectivity players to open up into the reseller space, but they have to do it right. And it's very easy for resellers I think the main bulk of it is quite a tight-knit community. And we love a gossip and a chat.
There is a tiny community, but again, they're still sort of pockets, and they often surround around the publications and the events, don't they? Yeah. So we're lucky enough. I've been going to Glen Eagles for the last of 8-9 years. Yeah. When I first got invited, we probably weren't quite big enough, but we got invited by 3 of the suppliers that were there, who we were already doing stuff with, who saw that we would grow into that, and that they thought, actually, we want you here. Now, I've made so many of my key supplier decisions from that event.
Absolutely right.
And others I've looked at and they've gone, oh, here's a spreadsheet of our connectivity. And I'm like, what's on net and off net?
Yeah.
Because I sort of know, but I don't really know. Well, I know what it is, but I don't know what it is. But how do I know if that particular connection I'm doing it is on net or off net? And there's a massive difference in the pricing. It's like, well, most of them will be on net. Okay, good. Yeah. What happens if they're not? Well, it's the other price. I was like, oh, so what percentage? Well, we don't really know. I was like, just give out one price and you take the hit on the off netters. So if they're on net, that's it. And you might know that it's 2% off net. So load the on net prices by a tiny bit for the off net ones. Just send me one simple spreadsheet, one simple pricing. It's this, and this. And the other real annoying ones are when the suppliers know that they've just done a renegotiation with, say, TalkTalk, or they've got City Fibre on, or that, and you've got to. We tend to. I have 2 suppliers for any product at any time, pretty much. So for connectivity side of things, 2 main sort of suppliers. So we go to one, check one, go to the other, check the other. We'll quote off of one quite often, and then when it's done a deal, we'll go to both and check them. But again, because their checkers are different, they don't maybe go to all the right networks. They don't do this, they don't do that. They might have just renegotiated with TalkTalk, but they've not reloaded the prices into their portal. So they go, oh, if at any time you find the price cheaper than it is on our portal, just send us an email and we'll see what we can do. And it's like, no. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. No chance. Yeah. That's your price. Yeah. Not I'm going to go back to you. Yeah. I wouldn't expect it of anyone. If someone says it's that much, I'm like, fine, boom. It's either all like these decisions are financial or emotional, aren't they? Sometimes you'll spend more from something because you prefer the supplier.
Absolutely right.
And we've got that even with like buying headsets and stuff like that. We really have got someone really love the business, love that.
Preview?
Sometimes it is Preview, yeah.
Big up Preview. Everyone loves Preview. They smash it. Yeah.
Know them really well. Yeah. And we did a really big deal, and I sort of rang through and like that, and got through to I think Craig was sales director at the time, and he said, oh, it's a fair amount extra of your credit limit, and he said, Darren, give it to him, it's fine. Yeah. Because he's met me at the events, done that, and knows that we'll deal with it in Preview. Whereas there are some other suppliers that might have got something black market or grey or whatever else. We could buy it slightly cheaper. I'm like, no, buy it from Preview.
Damn right. We're creating a very good guide here of breaking out into the reseller zone. So be personal. We like that personal touch. Be simple. Have one price. Make it clean.
You've nailed that.
I have. Thank you.
Look. Simple Johnny. That's what I called you to begin with. Simple Johnny Ray. Tried to sell me billing and never managed.
We should come on to that story. And have all the information in one place, or a portal, which has got to be easy to use.
Yeah.
This is priceless, right? And I've also shout out to that Glen Eagles event is the best telecoms event that has ever been and is still going. So they absolutely smashed that. And if anybody gets a chance to go, you've got to be quite a big hitter though to be able to go, haven't you?
Yeah, you've got to have a sort of over a certain turnover and buying power. Yeah. Because it's a big investment for the people that are there. And you've also got to commit to working the event. It's not just a jolly.
Yeah, it's graft.
It's graft. You're up early, you're that, and then you've got to be drinking really late to the bar till the early hours of the morning, doing the proper networking, and then get up again for breakfast to listen to everyone and do the one-to-one appointments, because the people that are paid to be there and paid for you to be there, I still hold a certain amount of respect for them to do that and feel that I've got to do my part. Should we tell you when you first met then? When you were working for a billing company?
I was wet behind the ears, and I was my way to generate business. And throughout any career within comms is to pick up the phone, and that was embedded in me from my very first job when I was 17 with a chap called Mark Jones. Absolute legend, love him to bits. And I took that through and went to Union Street, which was a billing company who is very traditional, software-based, been in the industry a long time. And from what I can see, hadn't had any sort of hard grafting, not insulting any of the other sales chat. No one who would pick up the phone. It was very much, we're the big brand in the industry.
It was Tony's business, though, wasn't it? And it was very much Union Street. Absolutely. Tony, very clever man, lovely guy.
Absolute legendary man. And obviously his tan self, Sir V, as we should call him. So I'd always pick up the phone, and then I was hammering through cold calling. I was actually getting an all right response, weirdly. And then I cold called you, and I was absolutely shitting myself because you're the most blunt, terrifying man in the world. And I was like, what the f*** have I got through here? And then eventually you're like, yeah, come in. All right, I was like, sweet. So 4.5 hours, I travelled down from Hemel Hempstead to come and meet you. And it was actually all right. I was terrified that I was meeting this 6 foot whatever, giant, scary man. And you were sound as a pound. Didn't win your business, but made a great connection. And I think a lot of people miss that.
And you came in with a deal from Tony, which was, how good was the deal?
Really good.
You said
really good.
You said I've never seen him do a deal like this
really
before.
Good.
And what was the only reason they didn't move?
Your loyalty to your existing supplier.
Loyalty, and that was solely it. And I talk about that quite often with people. You're like, if you can't use me now, I'm absolutely fine. And I say this really openly to suppliers. Yeah. If someone tries to bullshit, there you go. There's a first beat. Their way into something. I've got no time for that. I need that. I say, right, just give me the information, I'll hold it there, I'll remember. I might need someone, it might be a week away, it might be a month away, they might get bought out, they might make a massive mistake. I'd rather be there in line for it. And it's the same where there are other suppliers. When we recently chose to go with Vox One, with VoIP Unlimited, we were really close to sort of 2 or 3 others. It was really like a final 2, and I said to the other guy, look, really, sir, I've gone with this, and these are the reasons I've done it. And went, look, I understand, actually, because I know that we're not as strong on that part. I said, but sit there. I'm going to dedicate the time I need to, but I know that you're there and you'll win it. And that's the long game, which is where the industry is quite good. Yeah. It is quite incestuous of the way people move around and with the similar businesses know each other. Right. But actually, do you know what? It is weirdly a bit of a community. Yeah. I know, the Ralph and Chris from Focus, because we went on the Gamma Rally together when they bought Southwest Comms. They were at a do, and Chris wanders over, hello mate, how you doing? Gives me a hug, and you can see like the Southwest Comms. How on earth does he know him, and why is he giving me a hug? Because I was their competitor for all these years, and still am their competitor. But he's like, just greeting like a friend, because actually we are.
I say this a lot to a lot of resellers I've done work with on the consultancy side. Like, go to these events and meet other people. It's not. I've always been against the aggressive competitiveness, and I've had that in some cultures. Like, you hate your competition.
There's only one that most of the people in the industry hate. So.
Absolutely right. We all stand by it.
And they have lots of names that they go pseudo under. There's another leaflet, and you read the very last page.
Absolutely right. I like that, right? Because you've got to have a bit of. Like, there's I don't actually like the phrase, like, oh, it's business. I always hate that. Like, no, it's not. There's personability behind business, and I'm not here saying as a multi-millionaire, so I might be doing something wrong. But they're
immoral.
And moral is the correct phrase.
How do they sleep at night? Well, really comfortable in their silk sheets. Yeah. Is the right answer.
Every reseller does come together on LinkedIn. When somebody posts about it, everyone jumps on it and likes it. And they're like,
because they've taken that thing out of it. They've come maybe from a different industry or whatever else, and they don't really care. They're just like, boom, and they'll continue to operate that way, and it's fine. But as a rest of it, and it is a bit of a community. I mean, obviously, it's mainly now the Focus and Chess and community, because they bought so many different ones, and then Babel, and there's still people doing acquisitions. I get
very much so
in my inbox every other day. I get LinkedIn approaches. Hi, I'm working on behalf of, and it's like, no, I'm not ready now.
Yeah, it's nuts.
To look at selling the business is a different phase. It's probably, to do it properly, needs to be 5 years.
Why do you think? So we're definitely there's always been acquisitions floating around, but very much so in the last 24 months. from what I can see, it's been nuts.
It's slowed down recently, actually. It was all down to interest rates, where people who had acquired a massive wealth were not getting anything for their money sat in their bank account. Yeah. So they're getting 1%, 2%. They got loads of money, they might get 5%. And it's mixing this sort of mitigating risk, isn't it, through different investments. So there's a lot of venture capitalists with money that go, right, actually, we can do 10% really easily. Yeah. So then it becomes this chase for this EBITDA, doesn't it? The whole, and that really annoys me, actually, when you go to, sometimes you go to Gleneagles and you meet other people and they want a chest beat because they don't know you, and they're like, obviously, me being slightly larger than life, they're like, oh, what's your EBITDA? How many people do you employ? And I was like that. I'm like, oh, don't really know either of those things. I'm sure we've got one somewhere. I'll have a look in the cupboard, and it's like that. It's like, oh, just don't quantify people like that. But anyway, yeah, so big amount of venture capitalists there funding money because they're telling the people with wealth that, look, you're not making anything in the bank. We can invest this into this, and you can get minimum 10%, sometimes even more, and evolving technology, so stuff that's going to grow. Yeah. We're in a real key market, aren't we? And the way that the businesses have changed from being a very transactional to a longer term MSP sort of route. So our monthly commitments are there. So we had lines and calls and we did that. But again, they were in sort of a shortish contract or things like that.
It's a great point. I really want to jump on this. So a lot of startups listen to us as well. And one bit of advice I'd like to give a startup is, like, never be put off with leasing. We were touching on it there, some crooks that we don't like. They give a bad name to leasing. There is nothing wrong, this is my opinion, so you can battle me on it. There's nothing wrong with financing a deal if it works for the customer. And if you're a startup, and like lots of startups are salespeople that have jumped ship and they want to go and make it, they've seen the passion and think they're going to do it, don't be put off by financing a deal if you do it right, because that gives you the cash injection that your business needs to grow. People that think, jump out from the start and want to build that recurring revenue model, absolutely, recurring revenue is king, and it's part of when you want to sell, what makes you attractive. But in order to get cash into the business, if you're not going down the investment route, I think there's nothing wrong with financing deals. And you might tell me I'm wrong in all fairness, but
I like the way you might tell me I'm wrong. Why do you have to do that? Don't do that.
Just too nice.
Just ask you're not too nice at all. That's a damn lie. Look, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
There you go. Is that right?
Yeah, good.
Do you want any more reasons why?
Yeah, please.
Why you're not wrong?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not wrong. When you're selling to someone, you need to give them as few reasons to say no as possible. If they don't have the money in the bank and they can do it on a lease and it's this much, we lease a huge amount of kit. And that, again, is a financial decision.
In the IT world or the comms world? Or both?
On both. Yeah. On all of them. Cash is king. We know all of these things. If you're cash rich, we'll give people a buy price. We'll also work out, we can say your lease price, just times it by 36 months. There's your buy price. That's the amount of interest you're going to pay by borrowing it. So we're really clear with it. It's really clear on our paperwork.
That is key. No, my advice, well, it depends how you everyone to sell, but try to pull the wool over their eyes at the end of the sale when it comes to the lease and say, oh, this is our partner and our finance agreement, is never a good advice. 9 out of 10 customers are happy if you explain it up front that there is a bit of interest in everything else.
But this came from photocopiers. That's how, so many copier companies then became comms companies or had them sat alongside each other because it was a natural evolution when you were allowed to sell phone systems and they had to have maintenance on it. So it's very much once you've done that, you then go on a peppercorn lease because you can't own the asset. Yeah. So when you lease something, you can't own the asset because that's the way it's taxed and done, all those sorts of things. And various things have come out with, tax write-offs, and now where you can get 120% back if you're investing back on certain things in your business, or you could do, and those things. But anyway, with leasing, you can write the figure off and the interest then. So it's a very much accounting sort of thing, as well as being able to get on to actually do what you need to do your job. I've never had a problem where a member of staff or a member of a team or I haven't had the right tool to do the job as quickly as possible. Yeah. And you were talking about that this morning. I'm doing a big extension at home and my chippy's there and we're chatting, laughing away. I'm like, you're having another cigarette break and coffee. Like, he's nearly warmed my coffee machine out, honestly. It's like that. I know how many beans I fill up with there. And he's like, yeah, but look at the amount of work I've done. And it's true, because I go in there, he's got 3 different nail guns with the different ones, first fix, second fix. Now, they said, we first went to a job somewhere, and it was to hang 400 sort of fire doors in a big police station and that. He went, how many of you are there? It's like 2 of us. How long are you going to be here for? 10 days. Yeah. And they had a router and an electric plane before anyone did, and they made a jig. So they'd always done the technology, and they smashed the job out. And they're like, oh, we've never seen anyone do that. So it's the same with what we do with technology and with having the right tools to go in and do the job. And leasing is one of the things that you've got that you can help someone to get what they need now and actually do it honourably. And it means that you as a business then get the money in one lump straight from the leasing company, not having to chase someone who's a bad payer, etc., and follow through. So your leasing's absolute key to any business, and it doesn't even have to be really an asset anymore. It has to have some asset behind it, but you couldn't, for instance, before do training or licensing, but now they go, you're a business, you've got this sort of an asset, we're securing this against your business. I don't need something I can pick up and take away, because you did that with a phone system and tried to sell a second-hand phone system a year in, it's like, it's a doorstop.
Yes. Cool, okay, this has been good. I want to finish up a bit more on connectivity, although I love doing the reseller stuff, so I think we're probably at a point of half and half. Half our listeners are still the reseller side, which is great, so we get to talk to people like you, and half are the ISP world. So we will jump back for a bit of connectivity. So do you think the more the country pushes out full fibre, there's going to be a decline for some resellers? Almost 30% of their EBITDA or revenue can be based on chunky connectivity and Ethernet circuits have been pushed out left, right and centre. It might not be a worry for you, it might be a positive for you, and it's a positive from what I can tell. The more FTTP gets rolled out, the less those small businesses who couldn't get anything on ADSL, sat there on a £400 lease line, can now take the FTTP. Is that a positive for you or a negative? Because you'll...
Look, it's a bit of both, because if they take that money and then use it to buy other services, that will try and wrap it in. So they're already buying it from us. We'll go, look, you've got this lease line, you're paying 320 quid for your 100 meg lease line. Yeah. Let's stick in a gig fibre to the premise. Yeah. Let's now work your older VoIP system and give you a Teams app. Yeah. And let's give you some WhatsApp. Yeah. So you've got WhatsApp business. So actually what we're doing is we're taking their spend and rolling it. You're already spending it, so let's get you something else. So we roll there, maybe if you can give them a discount as well, and those things. It's all rolling in there, isn't it? So from us, probably in some ways a positive, because we can roll that money into something we're making more margin on.
Good shout.
In other worlds, no, because they just go like that, boom. But that's having your customer close, isn't it? And being their trusted provider and their solutions provider, that they come to you and they're not getting leaflets through the door from some random carrier that's gone past them saying, we'll give you a 30-day contract and we'll give it to you and we'll give you a free iPad.
Have you ever launched a connectivity first campaign? So connectivity is not sexy by any means, right?
No, it's probably one of the most dull things that's possibly there, but one of the most absolute...
Great success.
Well, one of the absolute key things to any business.
Yeah.
So it's completely underrated. It's like insurance, isn't it? You're like, I've got to have car insurance. Yes. Yeah, you have to pay for it and it's accepted. And the same with your connectivity as a business. And it's the same with service level agreements, isn't it? So with the SLA on something, on a standard residential broadband that loads of people had in their businesses, then when it's gone off, I was like, sorry, can't do much. Yeah. Oh, how long would it be off for? A week? Yeah. They're like, what? I rely on this for my business. Yeah. Well, maybe you shouldn't have a residential connection into your business. Yeah, but there's only 5 of us. I said, well, there you go, and this is the risk. Yeah. And this was when 3G was very new and all of those things, so they couldn't do it, and they had to have stuff. But it was prohibitively expensive that people would take the risk. Yeah. So the cost comes down, the service goes up, and then the things that you can bundle. We didn't have Netflix, so talk a lot about digital disruption. Yeah. About, Blockbuster knew everything. They had all their customers. Everyone came in. They bought some Haagen-Dazs ice cream while they were there. They asked the guy, what's a great film? Oh, they're all rented out. We've only got 12 copies of that at the moment. But this is the next one, and we've got some of those or whatever else. So you're like, oh, okay. Well, can you reserve it for me when one of them comes back in? They knew everything. They had their whole business lined up, but they just didn't move. They didn't shift. And Netflix came along, were like, hold my beer. And yeah, Blockbuster made an absolute boo-boo with all of it. Because they had a customer database. They just had to flip them and manipulate them, going, tell you what, don't come in and get the video. I'm going to stream it to you. You're going to what? Yes, I am. And they were too late to the party. And there's no end of those. It started in the Industrial Revolution, didn't it, in the 1800s?
I know well.
With steel.
Coal. Yeah. Steel. Exactly that.
And coal, yeah. But it does. And we're facing that now with AI. So AI and dictation and stuff like that doesn't work well without good connectivity. So we go, do you dictate? Yeah, all the time. But it needs to be on good connectivity. You try and doing it with one of the old installed on your computer type thing, they're rubbish. They go, I have to go back and correct it and punctuate it and do all of this. You do it with a good connectivity, it's streaming straight to an online service that can speak Devon and can understand simple and do that. So dictation, all of those things,
Are you seeing any? We had this work from home boom. Are you seeing any business owners be like, well, can you put connectivity in my home? And then I'll put that through the business for my home. And can you put connectivity in for our employees' houses? I don't know if anyone's ever done that, but are you seeing any of that?
Home, a lot of business home connections. Yes, we do those. I said do. It's always good any conversation about that. Do. See, that's why I'm not just a connectivity person. Yeah, I'm a grown up. But yeah, we put connectivity into directors' homes and things like that quite often for we do it for some people's backups and things like that. But because they've got home offices and they work actively from there, the people working from home, pandemic stuff like that. Oh, what a nightmare! Absolute nightmare. And a lot of the time, because the ISPs and the routers have not really known the direction they're going in, so they've changed all sorts of things. So SIP ALG is probably the most common one, isn't it? Like that. I've got my IP phone at home. I've taken it back and it doesn't work very well. Okay. Have you got SIP ALG enabled? I don't know. How do I do that? Some of them have to then phone a call centre, and the call centre's somewhere else, completely different. And then they go, oh no, sir, it doesn't look like you've got it. And you go, I'm pretty sure you have. So the amount of time lost due to that, due to home connectivity, and also the home user not knowing the difference between broadband and Wi-Fi.
Yeah. That's a really good point. We write about that a lot as well.
And some people are good BT. Oh, we'll give you 4 discs. Which is great because it's a good solution. And as technology comes in, like the mesh, that you can actually just chuck these things at people and not have to do it, just crack on with it. So again, it's solving people's problems. I think a lot of it's like the revolution with mobile phones, where they got so expensive that you couldn't provide them. Every employee wants a mobile phone. Cool, yeah. They all want iPhone 14s. They're like 1,500 quid. Like, I can't get a contract on that. It'll cost me a fortune. So the whole bring your own device thing kicks off with that. And I think it's the same with home broadbands, that as an employer you probably should be paying towards your that, but then it becomes a benefit in kind, it becomes taxable and all of those things. So it's difficult, but yes.
Good one to end on then. So the big debate on you are a IT company first, who then come into comms, and we've been going for this transition in the traditional reseller space for many years, and it hasn't quite worked, where a traditional reseller starts selling VoIP and they're like, actually, I want to get into a bit of IT. And some of the wholesalers are trying to service that area now.
Yes.
Do you think it's possible? And where do you see the hiccups? And my perspective on this is, if you're IT first and you're moving into VoIP, you're technically minded, and VoIP is a simpler product for you to adapt. To go the other way from being a traditional reseller selling VoIP, or I might be putting them off, and I shouldn't. Maybe IT is something resellers definitely should be getting into. What's your opinion on that?
Again, there's loads of different things there, because there's lots of aspects of what you're talking about. If you're a traditional comms company, you want to get into IT, buy an IT company, or recruit the staff that understands those models. The reason why a lot of comms has become undervalued by people are because IT people have come into the space who have no idea how to actually sell it. So they've said, I'm going to sell 3CX and I can do this. It's like, wow, okay, who's doing the lines? Oh, the lines are with somebody else. Okay, so you're not making any money on the lines or the calls. No, we're just doing this. And what are you charging in maintenance? Well, we're not. We'll do it when it breaks or whatever else. And actually, so they're missing all of those strings to give somebody service. So we take over a huge amount of 3CX from IT companies. We also take it from in-house IT departments who want us to manage it because they've realised I've rolled out a 3CX because that was all right. Don't really know how to maximise what I want to do with queues and ring groups and all of those things. Yeah. So we get it from there. So if you're an IT business looking to get into comms, get somebody who understands a comms business model so that you can actually make some money and do it properly. Yeah. Give the service people want, because it's not a Microsoft product. And these things are very much we championed a VoIP provider who were brilliant, and they were bought by venture capitalist firm, and they changed from a supplier and a partner, because we were a partner with them. I know the MDs of all of our suppliers pretty much. Yeah. And if things were really, really bad, I could pick the phone up to Gamma and talk to, and again, and he probably wouldn't take my call. Of course he would. He'd worried to beat him up. No, Daryl, sorry. No, you did, and the same with those other people that know the people there going, that's that. And these people went from being a solutions provider to being a bit more of a software house, because they see that what they sell software, and it is. They are 3CX's relationships with their suppliers that we, in real terms, spend 10 times more with sort of Microsoft on licensing than we do with 3CX each month. Yeah. Probably 100 times more, because it makes up a small part of the solution. Yeah. So these big telcos, if they're supplying software and licenses, the whole, UCaaS thing that they love to talk about, they're like, it's like, do they really know what they are? No, well, we're UCaaS. Well, we're UCaaS. We're all UCaaS. It's like that. So you're just selling software as a service, which came years ago, where everyone put, what do we do? That as a service. What do you do? Bull as a service. BS as a service. It's like, and they've developed into that, and they've lost it. Yeah. And I can't deal with them anymore, because I no longer feel like a partner. Just a supplier. I'm just buying a transactional thing. So if you're an IT company, find someone comms. And if you're a comms company looking at IT, again, you're not going to get a supplier relationship like we do with our comms suppliers, because that's a partnership. Microsoft might call you a silver partner or a gold partner or whatever else, because you paid for it and done whatever else. Yeah. And you might get better support, but you won't get full account management. No. You won't get looked after if there's something special that needs doing. Yeah. It's transactional.
But putting that product into that end customer stops another IT company supplying that, who then might supply.
So that's what they want to do. So a lot of people go, let's maximise what we can sell. We're a trusted advisor. Let's sell this. Customers want one bill, one shop. That's what we've sold with for years. So we do the Microsoft. We do this. We've done bits of CCTV in the past. We've done satellite vehicle tracking in the past. We've got energy. We're energy brokers with Fidelity. We resell energy. We've got some massive customers that would be insane. If I tried to go after my biggest deal, who spend 150 grand a month on energy as just an energy provider, they go, no chance whatsoever. But because I've done their IT and we do their comms, and they've been a customer of mine for 17, 18 years, probably longer now, 20 years, I went, oh yeah, look at it. And we hit it, and we got the best deal. We beat everything else because we already know them and they trust us. So this supplier. So it is about selling as many things as you can to your customer. But if you don't understand something, we don't venture into it. So the new system with Vox One, we've put it in-house. We've got a free 3CX. We've had to do a little bit. We've just put Vox One in so that we understand it and we know how to do it. Yeah. So everything is done with confidence, with expertise, with knowledge, because in the fast-paced world, I can't have slow answers, slow replies. My new head of technical, who I employed 6 months ago to take over sort of my role of tech, because I love the tech. I'd rather be, I'm more than happy crawling around on desks, plugging things in, fiddling on databases and setting up phone systems and working in Linux and all the geeky stuff. That for me is the fun side, because then I have a lot of fun out of it. But I thought, I can't keep doing this because I'm getting old. And getting a little bit slower with the uptake of things, even though I really like it. Like things with how quickly Azure's moving on with Microsoft and all these other things. So I've employed a head of tech and paid him a lumpy sum to do that.
Lovely chap that moved down to...
Yeah, that's it. You met him, and he was like, I then had to let him do his job. So it's now employing someone and then letting him do his job and doing those sides of things. And
which is hard if you've owned something for 20 years and been there.
Do you know what? I thought it'd be a lot harder than it was, but actually, all the extra time you get back and all the time you get off. But then I actually get time to look at the things I want to look at and then develop things and roll things out how I want to develop.
Yeah. Are you going to use that time to Do you enjoy going to see your customers? And do you still get that chance to? Some resellers, I suppose, that's their favourite thing ever, being out 5 days a week. They're a business owner still, but they get to go and engage with their customers, and they love that. Is that you, or is your free time how do I develop the business?
That will always be me seeing our customers and doing those things, but I'll choose to do it at like not working events. So set up not working loads of you went, oh, it's like that. When you were here and we're chatting, I go, it's lovely to see you in Exeter. It's my city, and that's like really arrogant thing. But I know a huge amount of people because I've networked. I've got the business, been here for 24 years, doing all of that side of things, and not backward and coming forward. And the reason I network probably is more to see my existing customers than actually look for new ones. New customers come to me. I'm not super financially motivated. That might change as I want to think about retirement, but I've got strings in different things. But it's a mix, isn't it? I want to spend a little bit more time. It's nice being able to focus on things on the business a little bit more and more strategically and do those things. We recently did our core values. We actually spent time writing them out because I didn't want them to be diluted, and I wanted all my team and everyone around
as well.
us
You need that bedded in
to know,
absolutely.
Which were the things like authenticity, accountability,
Good.
And it was funny. Somebody asked, "Oh, what are they?" At Glen Eagles, actually, I said, "We've only just written them," and I was like, I just went blank. I was like, "Oh no," because there's so much else going on. I don't know my own core values.
Is there anything I haven't asked you that you want to talk about?
I guess probably more like about all the altnets and how hard it is to know who's where and what they're doing and where they're doing it and side of things. If you're old and I say wise, but old and stupid, but learnt through experience, I know where the networks are and who passes what door and where what is, and things that might be harder for those to get in because, way leave and things like that can be a nightmare for business premises, but not residential because they own their own houses and those things. So it's those complications of getting the best connectivity. How do I know how to get the best connectivity into a customer, and also the time and delay that it may be? So my Starlink's been with someone for 6 months, apart from when I took it back to go to the festival, because they're waiting for an altnet to put a connectivity in there, and they're having a nightmare with the way leave because the landlord keeps not filling stuff out, and then the IT guy forgets it. Then they have to start the order again, and the landlord doesn't do this and do that, and it's like, wow, because it means there's a small dig there. And it's knowing the difference that if it's an Openreach, then their duct already goes in, whereas with the altnets, they can use the BT duct to get to the termination, but from there into the building, they've got to do something else. And it's that whole knowledge. How do you amass that knowledge unless you're really boring?
I think I love you for this because essentially I can plug my own product a little bit at the end of my podcast.
That was the idea.
I thought so as well. Am I going to edit that out? No.
It's not my first radio.
And what a terrible host for not plugging his own product at any point throughout the podcast. Really good question, Ian. So this is exactly what we're trying to solve on the business side. So we have our comparison platform, which is Altnet First, and we integrate lots of different altnets and obviously the main Openreach providers to push the mission of getting a more full fibre connected Britain. But on the business side, and this is actually where my idea started as a whole, and then I ventured into the consumer side because we needed the revenue to scale this business. But on the business side, we consume RFS for lots of the altnets, and that's only going to grow the more we integrate. And we want to provide on the business side a channel facility where they can log in and see which altnet providers are in that area. We've got no interest in trying to be a wholesaler within that area. The channel is my passion and where I found my love for telecoms, if you can do that. And I just want to be able to service resellers, and then hopefully they'll come and talk to me on a podcast and everything else. And I think as it stands, we have probably 14 different networks that we feed RFS from. And when we go live, you will be able to see which businesses are local, and then it's down to the reseller to talk to those guys. I would love to, in a further down the line, be that relationship starter. So if a reseller comes on the platform, they put in a postcode, it shows them a local altnet. then there's an easy facility for them to communicate with that altnet and say, yes, we do have a wholesale problem.
Like the insurance websites where you do that, or the flight scanners, or those. You click on that, gives you the different prices, and then you can make the choice.
And I've got no interest in skimming. I just want to get that relationship started and help the altnet be a reseller. And we've given them some advice on this, or help the altnet break into the reseller space with the advice we've given them.
You have to skim, or you have to get something, because you can't just work on this. So it's a subscription thing, isn't it? So as a business, would I pay a subscription for you to do that? If it saved me time and did that, and it meant that any one of the project managers or sales team could just go and do it, because they don't know that, I know that in Exeter there was a network, Torch. Do you remember Torch? You ever heard of that? No. Torch network, really old fibre network. Yeah. And it was put in, and it came a really weird route, went down to something called Ludwell Lane. You'll have to look that up, because it's a wonderful lane that's in the middle of stuff that you're like, no, it's one way now, but it's amazing. Okay. Weird place. And it goes down through there, and it goes, because it came out to the university.
Yeah.
And that's now City Fibre's network, and they extended it onto Marsh Barton, and they did this and they did that with it. I knew it was there and what it was done. KCOM had it for a while and didn't really do anything with it. Yeah. And it's like, I want to just be able to sell it and do this. Yeah. And being able to search, buy that and know this, and then get clear, transparent pricing on stuff. All of this, it's a burstable connection or whatever else. It's like, look, it's either 100 meg, 500 meg, or a gig. Don't give me like it's 100 burstable to a gig. It's a gig with 100 most of the time. But if you need a gig, you'll get a gig. It's just let's simplify things and just give people a price. Boom. Yeah. And a price that's there, that is a reseller. I service my customer, I look after them, I do all the relationship, I pay you for it, and I have enough margin to make on it that you don't have a headline price on your website that means I can't do anything and can't do anything else because you feel you want to compete in that market.
Absolutely right. What a way to finish. Thank you very much for coming on.
That's all right. It's my pleasure.
Smashed it.
It's been exciting.
It was good.